In this video, I'll tell you some easy tips and tuning tricks. I'll show you how to get it to hold more shells. I'll show you how to add padding to the lever. We'll see how to get it to hold less shells. And also, we'll pattern it with buckshot, tell you where it's made, and if you make it all the way to the end, I'll show you an interesting weapons-mounted light for it. From the factory, your Cimarron is going to be able to hold 5 in the tube/carrier. What do I mean when I say tube/carrier? Alright, so you put it into the tube, and then you take another one and put it on the carrier. And you close, it pushes that last shell about 1/3 of the way into the tube. 5 in the tube/carrier is a lot. But what if you wanted more? So doing a little bit of measuring of the spring stack height and 5 shells, I realized I was only about 1/4 of an inch away from getting a 6 shell in. So we have to make up about 1/4 of an inch. Let's say you don't want to modify your gun, but you do have the skills and equipment to do your own hand loading of shotgun shells. I've found that these dummy shells, you can actually load 6 of them in the shotgun, no modification. So you can load their overall length to that. You can get 6 of these in the tube. If you wanted 6 in the tube and no modifications to the shotgun, and you don't reload, the only way I've found to do it is to get 4 Winchester AAs. They have the shortest overall lengths that I've found. And then I pair it with 2 2.5-inch shells. Now these little Kent 2.5-inch shells, I know they're not common, but I did email the company not too long ago, and he said that they're going to start making them again in late of 2024. But let's see if we can do it with commonly available shells. Unfortunately, due to YouTube policies, I can't show a video of me modifying it. But if you were to find me on other platforms, you might find a little bit longer video with a little bit more detail. Well, I wanted to try cutting down the factory spring. Kept cutting it, nibbling it little bit by little bit, and I eventually got it where it would hold 6 in the tube. But the spring was really weak, so I didn't like that idea. I was talking with a cowboy action shooter named Augustus Nicholas, and he was trying to accomplish the same thing. He went out and bought a Wolf extra power 12-gauge spring, magazine spring, and he was nice enough to send me one. The Wolf extra power spring came 40 inches long. I cut this one down to 20 inches, which means I have a spare now. Now the difference between the Wolf spring and the factory spring are many. The overall diameter seems to be a little smaller. The coil dimensions are a little smaller as well. The factory spring has about 7 coils per 3 inches. My rough measurements for the Wolf spring has about 6 coils per 3 inches. So the Wolf spring, having both thinner coils and less coils, means the stack height is going to be shorter. Alright, let's see how many it'll hold now. These are Remingtons. Those are longer ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it closes. And here I am, about 6 in the tube and 1 in the chamber. And since I'm not used to carrying 1 in the chamber in this shotgun, I promptly eject it when the buzzer goes off. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It works. Some of you are probably wondering, well, how many does it hold of the 2.5-inch shells? Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, just barely gets 7. I bet some of y'all are wondering how many of these little mini shells it'll hold. Well, I was able to get 10 in the tube, but it doesn't really matter because it won't cycle. A good addition to any lever action that you plan to cycle quickly is some padding to the lever. While the 1887 doesn't need brute force, it is critical that you work the action to its full extension for it to work properly. That last 5% of travel is what pops the carrier up. If you get lazy or are new to the 1887, Sometimes you start to anticipate the wall and not deliberately hit the wall, thus not popping up the carrier. Working the action briskly also helps the spent shells clear the action as well. Do this one hard. Ah! Here you can see I levered it to what felt like the wall, but as you can see the carrier did not lift it all the way up, so I gave it a little more oomph and up it came. What I did was take a 2" by 3" piece of 8-ounce leather. I punched stitching holes on both sides. I then stitched it together with a needle and thread designed for leather. I finished the edges with some black edging dye. A simpler option would be to take the same piece of leather and either punch or drill larger holes in there and use either leather or cotton shoelaces and just lace it right onto your lever. Probably the easiest option would be to get some type of lacing, either leather or cotton or maybe even some paracord, and just wrap it around your lever. It can be fancy like this woven one, or you can just simply wrap it around and tie it off at the end. To make a plug for your shotgun, find a dowel that's sized that'll fit on the inside diameter of your spring. Drill a hole in the one end of it. Get you a spacer that is big enough where it would not go on the inside diameter of your spring. As that outside diameter. Put a large flathead screw in there and tighten it down. So what you'll end up with, something that looks like this. And you just size the length of your dowel to however many shells you want the magazine to be able to hold. And when you compress your spring, it will only, the follower will only go back to here and only allow so many shells. Alright, I got some Wolf double-aught buckshot. Yep, need to push the carrier down. There we go. Alright, so we got this probably maybe 10-15 yards. Let's see what kind of pattern we get. One question that gets asked a lot is, where does it come from? Unfortunately,
it comes from China. That's why. It comes from China. I want to be accurate.
When you pull the foregrips off, and there appears to be some type of Chinese characters. I assume they mean left and right, but maybe somebody who knows will leave a comment. You can also tell by the manufacturer's mark. BAM must be the factory that made it, and PRC stands for the People's Republic of China. Also, this gun shoots a maximum length of 2 3/4" shells. It's not a strength issue, the action is plenty strong. It's just that the original guns were designed for shorter shells. In fact, the action is so strong, people have swapped out the smoothbores for a rifled barrel, taking the 12-gauge all-brass shotgun shell and necked it down to 70+ caliber and loaded up to 900 grain bullets. You can protect your homestead in style now that your shotgun is all kitted out. But what if you wanted to patrol your cabin at night and you need a weapons-mounted light? But since you have such good taste, it needs to be somewhat period correct. Enter the model 1895 Illuminator Defender. For all you tactical Old West operators, paired with a leather sling and a matching side saddle, you can fend off all those rapscallions that lurk in the shadows.